Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Brian Altano. I'm here with Zach Stein.
Hey there.
And Jose Otero.
What's going on?
We're going live via Google Hangout to Lucy O'Brien, who reviewed The Evil Within for IGN.
Hey guys, it's good to be here. Yes, I reviewed The Evil Within. Here is a quick recap of the verdict.
The Evil Within is a brutal, challenging, and remarkably fun game. Its eerie world and imaginative enemies are genuinely frightening, and the scares are heightened significantly by the scarcity of resources at your disposal.
Out of ammo.
It keeps the odds stacked against you to the point that they often feel insurmountable, yet it's finely tuned to the point that they never really are, as long as you can keep a cool head and a steady aim in the face of building panic. While its story does end up buckling under its own ambition, there is little here that takes away from the joy of experiencing survival horror under the steady hand of a master of the craft.
All right, guys. So that was what I thought of the game. I really loved it, to sort of put it lightly. I thought it was great fun. I thought it was terrifying. Now I think, this is an old school horror game, and horror games to some extent have moved on in terms of pacing, in terms of sort of character development and stuff like that. But I am very interested to see. I found it scary. Did you guys find it scary?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very intense experience, and you find that you need to breathe every once in a while because you're gripping the controller tightly and worried about your safety every moment of the game.
Yeah, I think that it does an incredible job of building tension, just sort of atmospherically. It's got some of the best sound design I've heard in a game in a long time, and I think it's sort of this mix between the sort of tangible enemies you fight in a Resident Evil game, and then the supernatural enemies that you see in some of the more like recent horror games with ghosts and stuff like that, where like something will come into the room and you'll be like, how do I fight this with the sort of weapons that I have here? And you have to kind of work from there.
Yeah, I find it really interesting, that question, actually, because I, flipping between this and like Alien Isolation, I feel like Alien was sort of a scarier game because I feel so vulnerable all the time. Like whenever I'm trying to like travel within this space station, I feel like every time I'm out of cover, I'm terrified. Whereas in The Evil Within, I feel like there's just a natural tension that builds. I think you hit it on the head where it is sort of an old school survival horror game, but it's kind of got the new school look going on at the same time, which is an interesting approach. That said, I do feel that it has genuine moments of tension, but I also feel like some of it comes across a little wacky at times, and that might just be a cultural thing, looking at like, okay, written, and sort of directed in Japan, and sort of their approach to horror is a little different from ours. But overall, I would agree with you that it is a scary game.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of people ask me, because obviously they were released so close together, which game should I get? Should I get Alien Isolation or should I get Evil Within? And, I would say that in terms of the way that they scare you, they both do it very differently. I think the Evil Within, it as you said, Jose, it does build tension really well, but I always found I could escape from a situation. Even if I died over and over again, I always felt eventually if I just did it right, I would be able to get out of the situation. With Alien, it's very much a horror simulator. It's all about hiding. It's all about like shutting yourself in a locker and trying to escape, because if you get caught, then you're dead. With The Evil Within, even though you're a little underpowered, you still have enough at your disposal to be able to fight or to flee, right?
Yeah, I definitely give a lot of credit to the director, Shinji Mikami, because I think he's really good at pulling the rug out from under you, and I feel like that's something that The Evil Within does really well.
Yeah.
So that kind of adds to sort of the scary atmosphere, because there are moments where you're revisiting like the place to upgrade. And there are times where like the camera is doing something completely different when you got there, or you spawned in a completely different area of that facility. Like you have certain expectations when you go through the portal, and yet it's unfolding completely differently. And I think that that's one of its strengths, and that's how it leans on scares versus, like you said, with Alien.
Sure.
There's a lot more atmosphere. I haven't played Alien Isolation, but the atmosphere in The Evil Within is just a texture of unease.
Yeah.
And it builds over time. And though you do have the weapons, right, and you can fight versus Alien Isolation, where you can't really fight the monster. You can fight these monsters, you can fight these creatures, but you never quite feel like you're on even footing. It's going to take some cunning, it's going to take some planning, And you don't always, you never quite have enough ammunition, you never quite have enough health, and you're always managing. And I think that's what it does to you, is it makes you feel uneasy throughout the game. You never feel, like Lucy said in her review, that you're on uneven footing.
Yeah, I always felt like the main underlying threat in The Evil Within was sort of perception. And it was the way that you could walk into a room and be like, I think I understand what's going on in here, and then all of that would evaporate. Quite literally, environments change in front of you in that game. Like it is very psychological in a lot of ways. And I think in Alien, you sort of you're like, this is my threat. There's any number of ways it can kill me, but I sort of have an understanding of what this is. Whereas the supernatural elements that come into play in The Evil Within make you question turning down a hallway. Like even the safest areas seem like they could evaporate at a moment and turn into something that can kill you.
Yeah, and they both sort of play with very familiar perspectives if you think about it. I mean, the third-person action game these days is like very synonymous. Like it's something we're all used to, that sort of camera angle, that presentation. The first-person shooter is something that we're also very used to, I feel. But both games come at it so differently, and in a way that I agree with everyone so far in terms of how, playing with perception, playing with expectation, and sort of in Alien, just that visible threat and knowing, oh man, it's in the next room. Where the heck am I going to hide right now?
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, thanks a lot. For more on The Evil Within, stick with IGN.